Yo guys, welcome to the Zelda fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the master of elements and got harem with Femme Kyuubi? Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Naruto, sweetheart. Kushina gently shook him out of his sleep. It's time to get out of bed and get ready for the day. Naruto groaned as he pulled his blanket over his head. Ahoana. The silence made him feel completely at peace in that moment. Then the shaking started again. Naruto, you have to wake up now. Nuo. She sighed. You're just like your father. He heard her leave the room and go down the stairs. It seemed like several minutes went by before she came back in the room. The lights turned on and then he felt the wooden spoon come down to whack him. Then again. Get out of bed. I've been up for an hour making you breakfast and it's not going cold just because you're tired. Naruto took her seriously this time and crawled from his bed to start getting ready. It took him very little time to find his clothing and get dressed. He found himself sitting at the wooden table in the kitchen with the three girls in minutes. Food was set out on the table and Kushina let everyone help themselves to the food. Naruto's head hurt, but it was better than having to wake up to an empty apartment without any food. Definitely better. Haku and Kumiko were good here too, Naruto thought. His mom loved having the two girls around and it made Naruto think that his parents would have had more children if they could have. If they would have had time. His mother really needed Haku and Kyuubi. Naruto, your team is set to meet in half an hour. Are you ready to go? Not yet, but sensei is always a few hours late. Oh. He won't keep that up for long. Minato would hang him by the neck if that continued. Kushina picked up the empty plates and brought them to the sink. What about you girls? Are you ready to go meet your new sensei? Finally. We haven't had much to do lately. Kumiko stretched. Haku nodded. Yes, I would like to serve the village with my powers. Kushina smiled at Haku, but it was almost a sad smile. Good luck then. You meet your sensei this afternoon, right? Naruto left before he could hear the rest of the conversation. He started his way to the training ground, walking instead of running because Kakashi was late anyways. There was no reason to rush when he could take his time and enjoy the morning air of the village. He picked up pace, enjoying himself. Around a corner, zigzag a person there, sidestep a person there, another corner slam. Naruto ran right into someone. They toppled and Naruto ended up laying over her. They were inches apart when he saw her eyes light up. Then her cheeks colored a deep rose. Naruto, you idiot. Get off her. The loudness of the boy's voice made him jump. Her teammate stood looking very protectively of their smaller teammate. Oh, Kiba. Hi and Naruto rolled his eyes in though as he tried to think of the other boy's name. Shino. How are you guys? Shino's demeanor visibly dropped. We were in the same academy class for years Naruto and you remember everyone's name except mine. You should remember your friends. His stomach dropped. Shino had always creeped him out even if he had enjoyed the rare conversation with him. Naruto just had trouble remembering him right away. Shino was as quiet as Hinata and he rarely spoke. He wasn't loud like Kiba or easy to remember like Shikamaru. Naruto said. Naruto. Shouldn't you be with your team? Hinata glanced at her sulking teammate and frowned. We have to meet Kurenai-sensei soon. You're right. Naruto said. Oh, and I'll be over at your house at supper time because mom wants you to come over. I'm sure Hiashi wouldn't care. Just don't eat before. Mom's making karaisu so make sure you're hungry. Bye Shino and Kiba. Hinata watched as Naruto ran off, zoning out as he reached the edge of her vision. Naruto always stayed so happy and now that he had his mom back his smile was more real than she had ever seen it. Hinata. Kiba tapped her shoulder to get her attention. It's time to go meet sensei about the Chunin exams. Naruto jumped down from the top pillar of the bridge next to Sasuke. He couldn't be more surprised to realize that Kakashi had shown up on time. Perhaps he shouldn't have taken the long way to get to their meeting spot. Naruto. Sakura immediately began yelling. Why the hell are you late? Kakashi-sensei told us to be here and now we had to wait for you. Do you know how much of an inconvenience you are? You made Sasuke wait and he has a busy day. Naruto frowned. He thought that maybe he would be able to work things through with his team, but it seemed like he wouldn't be able to handle it. Sakura had already started yelling at him and Sasuke was as silent as ever. Really, could the two of them have no more courtesy for their teammate? Naruto glanced over to Kakashi, noting that the older ninja looked just as displeased with his team. Though he had yet to say a word. When Sakura finally took a moment to breath, Kakashi grunted to catch their attention. I believe that the three of you have enough talent to participate in this year's Chunin exam. You haven't been ninja very long, but I believe that you are all capable of handling yourselves. He looked pointedly at Naruto. You should all read through this form and make the decision yourselves. If you do not feel comfortable participating then you should wait until the next one. Sensei. Sakura hesitated when he handed her the paper. What are the Chunin exams? Well, Sakura, they are an opportunity for genin of any village to be promoted to Chunin. Early on, the villages decided this would be the easiest way to avoid one village from having an army much bigger than the others. The exams started just after the Third Shinobi War. Any other questions? No, sensei. Naruto looked down at the paper and began to read. Chunin exams, Konoha. By signing this document, the following genin assumes the responsibility. Naruto skipped the rest of the page and skimmed through the rest of the document. It basically was a waiver that said he could not do anything if he sustained any injuries from the exams. He didn't care so much about that, of course. Then it went on to outline that he would advance through the stages and only become a Chunin if when the observing ninja or daimyo thought that he expressed the right qualities to become a Chunin. Then he signed it. He knew that no one would join if the contract was that bad, so once he had signed the form he handed it back to Kakashi. Just as he was about to ask if they had any other plans for training, Sakura gasped. I can't do this. I can't. I won't compete. I don't want to die yet. I'm only 12. My parents wouldn't know what to do if I got hurt. Sensei. Calm down, Sakura. Kakashi said. It's not nearly as bad as the waiver sounds. The tests are almost always safe enough. As long as you aren't stupid, nothing will happen. Are you serious? Naruto hissed. If you don't compete, then I won't have a chance to compete. They are taken as a squad, and if there aren't 3 of us, then I won't be allowed, and neither will Sasuke. I can't believe you're so weak that you will hold us back. How could you do this? Isn't it you that wants to get strong and stop being a burden? Enough, Naruto. Sasuke said. His hands were clutched around the form, eyes darker than usual. A weakling like her would only get killed. Boys, calm down. Kakashi touched both of their shoulders. You can both find separate teams if she doesn't wish to compete. There's nothing wrong with waiting. How old were you, sensei? It doesn't matter, Naruto. Kakashi sighed as Naruto glared at him. I was 6 when I became a Chunin, but the world was different back then. I don't want to. Sakura shouted again. Maybe next time, but I just want to be a kid for a little while longer. I don't want to kill anyone. Before Naruto or Sasuke could say anything to her, Kakashi put his hand up. Sakura, you are dismissed. I'll schedule a meeting with the Hokage after the exams are over to see where you stand with Naruto and Sasuke. And boys, I would suggest you go to the Hokage and begin to try and find a team with missing members. Yes, sensei. Naruto said. I understand. Now, boys, go and heed my words before it's too late to compete. We will have no more training sessions until after the first exam. Kakashi disappeared in a swirl, leaving the 3 genin alone. Sakura sat with her eyes downcast, looking almost guilty. You know what? Naruto crossed his arms at her. Tuck you, Sakura. You always were weaker than I am. I very well hope I'll never be on another mission with you. And Sasuke, I hate you too. Once the exams are over, I will never be on the same team as you two again. Naruto turned on his heel and he could hear Sakura beginning to cry. As he walked away, he heard her start to sob and he felt guilty. Maybe she didn't deserve his resentment, but it sure as hell made him feel better. If he had to find another team, maybe Haku and Kumiko didn't have a third member. It shouldn't be too hard to find them because he had a strange connection with Kumiko. It was as if he could feel her presence near him and he assumed it was because of the seal they had shared. Sometimes he wondered how he would feel if the constant pulse of her chakra left him. After all, his chakra was still sealed away inside him for the most part. He closed his eyes and tried to pinpoint her and found it almost easily. It was nearing lunchtime by the time found the girls. In the crowd they had been easy to spot. The 2 stuck out in the hordes of civilians. Haku. Kumi. Naruto ran up to the 2 girls, who were talking to another person he didn't recognize. They walked away quickly after he approached. Oh, Naruto. Haku grinned. We just had our first meeting with our sensei. I don't think she really wants to be our teacher, but the Hokage assigned her to us. Her name is Yugao. Are you going to be in the Chunin exams? He couldn't help himself as the question came from his mouth. His lips quirked into a smile when they glanced at each other. The longer they took the answer, anxiety settled into his stomach. Not this year. Kumiko finally said. Sensei said that we're eligible, but since we don't have a third member for our team. Yeah, you do. You definitely have a third member. He gave them a thumb up. I need a team, and together we make 3. Sakura was being an idiot again, and she didn't want to compete, so I'm free. Naruto, are you sure? Haku pushed her hair out of her face. That means you'll have to spend a lot of time practicing with us. I would personally love to have you as a teammate, that way we could all possibly be Chunin before the year ends. Kumiko started laughing a horrendous, yet natural, laugh. Oh yes, Naruto, that would be perfect. I'm sure. I would rather be on this team than one with Sasuke or Sakura. Kami, I am sure. I would rather be on this team than one with Sasuke or Sakura. Kami, I really dislike them. The hand suddenly touched Naruto's shoulder, causing all three genin to jump. I take it you have found a team. Good for you, Naruto. He turned to see Kakashi standing above him. Oh, sensei. You scared me. Yes, I found a team already. I just have to get the Hokage's approval and then we're going to dominate the exam. Kumiko grinned. Yes, we will. Just give us a few good days of training and then we will be ready. Sensei? Naruto asked. Do you know if Sasuke has found a team yet? He has. There was another genin team who needed a third member and he managed to snag it. He seems very excited about the exams. No doubt. I am too. Naruto said. He looked over to his two friends. Sensei, can I possibly talk to you alone for a bit? I have a few questions. Of course, Naruto. I don't really have anything to do today anyways. The two walked away from the girls, down the busy streets of Konoha. It was a lovely day out. The sky didn't have a cloud in it and the sun kept the air warm. Even though he had given up on Team 7, the day was great. I know that the last few weeks have been rough for everyone, Sensei, and I really did consider trying to put everything behind us and become a better team, but I just can't stand either of them. No matter how hard I try, Sakura just goes after Sasuke and Sasuke doesn't want to be a team. He just wants power for himself. I understand that feeling. You know, I was once like Sasuke. I didn't appreciate my teammates and I was an ass to everyone. My father died when I was young and I thought he was a disgrace to ninja, but as I grew up I realized I was wrong about everything. Kakashi said. Don't think I'm trying to get you to forgive Sasuke, but just think about it. You're both so young and you both have great potential and one day you may just realize that it could have been something you worked out. I didn't know that about you. Not many do. Do you still think that you wouldn't have wanted Sakura and Sasuke on your team if you could have chosen? Kakashi didn't reply right away. Honestly, yes. Not because they're bad students, but because it's ripping our team apart. I wanted my team to be close and never face the hardships that I did. I can't imagine what Minato felt when we fought. I can't imagine either. I know that it's probably selfish, but I really wish that you could be my sensei still. They were nearing the village gates, headed towards the training grounds. Me too. Do you think that after the exams are all said and done with that maybe you could be the sensei to a team with me, Kumi and Haku? I'm not certain, Naruto. They have their own teacher now. Haku said that she was a jounin who didn't want to be a teacher, though. Her name was Yugao. She's only teaching them on Hokage's orders. Do you think that maybe you could teach me and them instead, Kakashi-sensei? We'll have to see, Naruto. That's all up to the Hokage. But it isn't fair. Kakashi didn't speak for several moments, as if he were taking the time to process every word he spoke. You know, Naruto. I don't think it's fair either, but the Hokage is the leader of our village for a reason, and I would rather not question his judgment so openly. But Kakashi, don't you think that it's ridiculous to force a team together when all they do is fight and argue? It seems like a bad idea to me. After all, look what happened on the last mission. We could barely handle ourselves when you were incapacitated. I think that if I had teammates that would actually work with me to get stronger, I would be much happier and a better ninja. I'll speak with the Hokage about it, okay? Would it be alright if you helped me train a bit before the exams? We haven't really been training lately and I want to make sure I'm ready for the Chunin exams. Of course. I'll send a message to you later. Thanks, Kakashi-sensei. I have to go home in a while for dinner, so I'll see you later. Naruto waved to his teacher as he ran towards the village. The day was nearing its end with the late afternoon. His walk with Kakashi had lasted much longer than he had anticipated, but really, he had little else to do. He would start training with Kumi and Haku in the next few days, and he had to go find Hinata for supper, but outside of that he just wanted to spend some quality time with his mother and friends. He went through the village gates within a few minutes. Then he passed the civilian market and found himself making his way down the winding paths that lead to the Hyuga compound. It felt odd coming to this part of the city. The richer housing developments and clan compounds made for a very well-kept and rich environment. It was nothing like the dark, dingy area he had grown up in. The Hyuga compound lay at the end of the road, its gates tall and imposing, almost daring anyone to try to get inside. He could see the outline of chakra wards from some ways away. It wasn't often that a clan still used ancient ninjutsu like that. Seals were decently common, but not ninjutsu. He could see the two guards on duty as he came closer to the gate. Hello. I'm here to pick up Hinata. My mom should have told Hiashi by now. The man merely held out his hand. We have had no orders to allow an outsider in our home this day. Oh, come on. Just go get Hinata or Hiashi and they'll tell you. Hiashi is currently out. Then just get Hinata. We do not subject our lady to common people. It would be best for you to leave. Naruto groaned at this. The men tensed and he started rummaging in his bag for something his mother had given him. They probably expected him to pull out a kunai or something, but he pulled out a small scrap of fabric that had the Namikaze house symbol embedded on it. Look, I'm not the common person. Just go get Hinata now, or I will complain to Hiashi about being interrogated when trying to pick up my betrothed for dinner with my mother, Lady Kushina. He didn't like the idea that he could pull nobility from his father's name, but he felt tired and wanted to go home. I will send for her. Naruto waited for several minutes for Hinata to walk out. Instead of her usual jacket or training uniform, she was wearing a quarter-length sleeved dress that looked formal, yet casual. Something that he would definitely expect of an heiress. She looked like someone he would hear about living in a castle, but he supposed, in a way, she was royalty. Her father held the most prestigious spot on the council, and he bet that she had a governess for most of her childhood. He had never really put much thought to her title. One day she would be the most powerful member in such a noble clan. That meant that he would also have to learn the ins and outs of politics, which really was a scary thought. Hinata, you look really pretty, but you didn't need to dress up that much. Naruto said. Hinata's cheeks flushed. It is against custom to eat in your future mother-in-law's house without wearing something dressy. My father would be upset if I wore something casual and went against our custom. If father were here, I would be wearing a formal kimono, but I managed to get ready without his knowledge. You look very nice, so I can't complain. She smiled up at him with a broad grin that made him feel like he had just won a prize. Hinata would have been a very, very prized companion if she were available when she was older. He wondered if Hiashi would have set her up with a nobleman's son. Maybe even one of the grandsons of the daimyo. I hope you're hungry. Mom always cooks way too much food. Naruto reached down and took her hand. You haven't been to my house yet, have you? It's more of a compound though. I'll be honored to see it, Naruto. Hinata looked down. I can't wait to try your mother's karaisu. I'm sure it will be delicious. Ooh. Naruto loudly groaned. How can Sasuke have a stupid team? Every freaking two-person team probably jumped at the chance to get duck butt on their team. Probably kissed his ass too, if he asked. And of course, he had to be so smug about it. Don't worry about a person like that, Naruto. Haku said. He just wanted to rub it in that he had a team. Didn't you see his sneer? He was obviously jealous. More like suspicious. Kumi interjected. I tell you, he's suspicious that we were both accepted as ninja, and suddenly we're a brand new team that needed a new member, and then Naruto just miraculously found his way on our team. He always gives me the cold shoulder. Naruto continued, not really listening to either girl. He doesn't do anything and he has no friends, and all he ever talked about was revenge this, revenge that. And I thought that I was finally getting through the damn shell of his, and then he had to go and act like an ass again. Oh, come on. Kumiko said. He was never going to let you in. He even smiled once when we finished the tree climbing exercise. He helped me back. And we had an eating contest and I thought there had been a breakthrough. Oh, but Uchihas are better than someone like me. Can't sully their shoes, now can they? You're a better person. Haku said. No one is good enough for him. No one is good enough to grace his fucking presence. And everything just cared about that stupid clan symbol on his back and his charming features. That's what Sakura always said. Oh, he's so charming. Sasuke always acted like he didn't care about his looks, but he really did like the attention he got for being Konoha's star. He's nowhere near as talented as Itachi, except for the fact that Sasuke didn't murder his whole clan. You're going too far, Naruto. Don't say things like that to make yourself feel better. He acted like he didn't hear her. He always acts like his brother is the reason that he can't be friends with anyone. He acts like we will all betray him like that asshole did. We are from Konoha though. We are taught that everyone's life is sacred and we have to protect each other like family. He knew that I care so much and he just. Naruto, just forget about the dumb duck butt and let's go punch some things. Kumiko laced her arm through his. No more yelling about him, more punching trees until you feel better. She started to walk but was stopped when he didn't move at all. Why do we have to train? We're ready. Naruto's voice held a distinctive whine to it. We are going to just dominate, I know. Kumi, you're literally a demon incarnate. And Haku, you're just really fucking powerful. We need to learn how to work better as a team. Kumiko yelled. Idiot. We have an obligation to better enhance our synergetic proficiency. Haku huffed. At his confused look, she rolled her eyes. Serious. We need to make it so that we can fight and not run into each other constantly. Like Kumi said, teamwork. But we have good sin or whatever already. Naruto said. Not good enough. We need techniques that we can use together. Things that normal teams wouldn't expect from a group of young genin. I mean, we really don't look that scary. She's right, Naruto. Can you imagine if you went to face a team with two pretty small girls and a young boy? They'll have size advantage most likely. We're so young and Haku and I look pretty delicate. Okay, I get it. He wrapped his other arm around Haku and started dragging the two girls off towards the private training ground. We can just go train and that'll be that, alright. The training ground was empty when they got there. Naruto had never been on this exact training ground, but it looked almost exactly like the rest. Haku walked calmly to the middle of the field before she turned back to the two. Okay, we all have weaknesses and we haven't really worked together for long, so we really should work and see what we need to improve on. I know I need to work on my stamina because I won't be able to keep up with you two, and that will hurt us as a team. Makes sense. Naruto nodded. I would kind of like to work on better control of my chakra. And I have a new bloodline, and I haven't tried anything with yet, and I can't find any information where to start. I found a few chakra control exercises that should help with my control, but I have no idea where to go from there. Kumiko raised her hand. My chakra coils are all messed up. I think I need to use my chakra a lot more so that I can heal them and figure out how to manage my chakra. Plus, I need my coils to be able to make the change to my other form. I think that I could turn into my fox form with enough practice. So, what do you think we should work on first? Naruto asked, looking between the two girls. Why don't we spar first just to see how we need to work on? Haku said. The third person can watch and give suggestions. Once we meet with our sensei more, she can help us more. I asked Kakashi to take over our team after the exams. Naruto told her, making both girls stop in their tracks. Don't seem too eager. Naruto, that's great. Haku grinned. I mean, our sensei would be fine but she lacks luster. Kumiko finished. We can figure all that stuff out later. Let's spar. Naruto and Kumi stood in the middle of the clearing waiting for Haku to give the signal. Now, remember. Haku began. To jutsu only. We're working on figuring out each other's fighting style so we can coordinate as a team better. Jutsu will be later. Begin. Naruto threw his fist at Kumi, who simply ducked to the side of his arm and pushed his hand towards the ground. He threw his other first. She dodged. He grunted as her hand slammed into his stomach, knocking his breath out. He staggered back, waiting for another blow, but it never came. Naruto took a deep breath, half expecting another hit, but when he looked up Kumiko was standing, as if bored. You okay? Yeah, keep attacking. Give it all you have. As you wish. He straightened his pose, matching her stance. He advanced toward his opponent, his hands raised to guard his face, his body relaxing into the sparring stance he'd practiced for years at the academy. Kumiko feinted a kick, switching to her other foot at the last moment for a closer attack, and he jumped back, her heel barely grazing the edge of his nose. He cursed under his breath, feeling adrenaline pump his heart. The crunch of her fist connecting with his jaw ached before the hit through his back. He groaned. Of course, he wouldn't be able to beat her. He forced himself to stand, the metallic taste in his mouth becoming apparent. He dodged a half-hearted punch from her, which allowed him to drop and sweep her feet out from under her. She jumped as his feet connected her ankles, throwing her way off balance so she landed on the ground. Her eyes went wide. Hadn't expected that. Kumi started laughing. That was fantastic, Naruto. His jaw ached. It probably was swollen pretty badly and may even bruised. Yeah, I need a break now. Already? Kumiko's lips quirked. Haku and I can go now. You're okay to watch. Yeah. Naruto waved his arms. I'm fine. Go ahead and I'll watch. The girls lined up across from each other, Haku dropping into a lower stance than Kumiko. Okay, you can start. Naruto called when he sat against a tree trunk. Neither moved for a moment. Then Haku attacked. She was fast. Her hands were almost a blur as Kumiko averted as many strikes as she could. Haku was gaining momentum, pushing her partner back with every third strike. Kumiko kicked, causing Haku to stop her barrage of strikes to block in time. The sheer power behind the kick was enough to move her back a few inches. Kumiko's face contorted in pain briefly as her shin connected, but as soon her feet hit the ground, she was back to blocking Haku's attack. Haku was much faster. Naruto could tell that just from watching. Her attacks weren't very powerful though. The sheer quantity of attacks was forcing Kumiko back, not power. And the few hits Kumiko got in were sluggish in comparison, but they were much more powerful. A round sweep with her feet sent Haku jumping back. Her breathing came in deep waves, and sweat glistened on her skin. That didn't stop her from jumping back into the match. Kumiko dodged a punch, sidestepping it so that she could grasp Haku's wrist. With one fluid motion, she twisted her wrist, lowered her center of gravity, and then sent Haku flying over her shoulder and onto the ground. Phew. Haku groaned as her breath left her. She stayed on the ground more almost a minute, trying to catch her breath. You're fast. Kumiko said, sitting beside her friend. You just get tired really easy. Naruto stood up and made his way to the two. Let's have Haku and I spar another day. I'd personally rather train for a bit before supper. I agree. Haku said. Let's see what we think we should work on, then. Kumiko had undone Haku's bun and was now braiding it. I didn't get to watch, but this is what I saw. Naruto, you don't think. You just do. That'll end up getting you killed one day. You really need to work on your control. Chakra control exercises will probably be the best so that you can use your chakra better while fighting. Honestly, it was like you don't use chakra to enhance your strength or speed at all. Wait. You can use your chakra to enhance your muscles. Oh boy. Did anyone ever teach you anything? Haku giggled at the two, her eyes shutting. Anyways, Naruto, I think you did better than she thinks. You have a lot of natural power behind your muscles, you just haven't completely figured that out yet. I know. He said. I can last a long time, but I need to pay more attention. Exactly. Haku said. And Kumi, you really need to work on your speed. You aren't used to this form and you aren't as fast. You have to work with your human form more. You need to get faster. Haku's right. That's the only thing that kept you from matching Haku. Naruto nodded. You're right. Kumiko nodded. It's just really hard. Since I'm the only one that watched you Haku, Naruto started, you have to work on your strength. You get a lot of hits in but they don't do much. You rely on sheer speed. If you can actually deal damage when you hit you won't have to rely on your bloodline in fights. And your stamina too. You always finish everything quickly. That's because you get tired easy. You can barely last 10 minutes. I have thought of working on my stamina. I was thinking about wearing weights in my training gear so that it naturally happened. There's some chakra ones that allows the user to set the weight. Naruto nodded. Yep. And I can keep working on the tree climbing exercise and I'll ask Kakashi-sane if there's anything else I can do. The water walking exercise. Haku told him. That will be the best thing for you to learn. So, it's like the tree climbing one but with water. Yes, but you have to make your chakra fluid because water isn't a solid force. You have to learn to feel the waves and adjust your chakra. And it wouldn't hurt for Kumi to do it with you either. Her coils aren't used to her human form yet. These are all things we can do in our free time. He said. We should try and figure out things that will help us as a group. Maybe we can figure out some ways to complement each other. Good idea, Naruto. Kumiko said. There might just be a way to combine our jutsu. Like maybe you can use your shadow clones in Haku's jutsu somehow. That way it wouldn't be detrimental on her if someone figured it out. Or maybe a combination jutsu that became more powerful when we all put our chakra in it. I would have to experiment and test on my bloodline. Haku said. But with Naruto's bloodline I feel like there is a possibility for that. Since he has access to every element, supposedly, I may be able to teach him my bloodline to some degree and we might be able to use it together. That would be so cool. Naruto laughed. Imagine Sasuke's face if we did that. I need to go to the library and study it more, though. Haku touched his shoulder, bringing him out of the thought. I don't know much about team jutsu, but I feel like it would be very difficult to achieve. Once we figure out ways that make it possible, we would have to work on it under supervision of someone who understands it just in case something goes wrong. Naruto's heart rose. This was what it was like to be on a real team. Haku and Kumi didn't yell at him for asking questions, and if he didn't know something, he felt like they would do their best to help him figure it out. This was what teamwork was. Teamwork wasn't what he had with Sasuke and Sakura. You shouldn't be hit or yelled at by your friends. They shouldn't control you. Friends should be there to support you and give you what you need. Naruto. Haku waved a hand in front of his face. We're going to be done for the day so Kumi and I can go research before supper. We'll see you later, okay? Let's meet at outside the library in 2 hours. What are you doing, you little punk? The man's deep voice contrasted greatly with the cat-shaped hat and makeup the man wore. He picked up the child by the collar. Sorry, I was playing with my friends. I didn't mean to run into you. The boy screamed as he started crying. His friend stood behind him, cowering in fear. Tenkuro, stop, put the boy down. Do you want him mad at you? The blonde girl next to the man looked around, her eyes wide with fear. Just let me teach him a quick lesson. Kenkuro's eyes were filled with a dark gleam that had the boy squirming. The man only tightened his grip. The boy started crying again, as if he had accepted that he would die here. The man pulled his fist back, eyes furrowed as he readied his punch. He took a deep breath and started to swing but a strong grip on his forearm stopped him. Excuse me. You're a sand ninja here for the Chunin exams, no? The boy tightened his grip, waiting for Kankuro to nod. Good, because I thought we were in Konoha. It is against the law to harm minors here. Especially if that child is the grandson of the Hokage. You would do well to drop the boy now before I personally report this incident to the Hokage and have your team disqualified from the exam. Tenkuro didn't move, as if he were sizing up the newcomer. I said drop the Hokage's grandson now or else. Or else WH. Kumiko flared her chakra from behind Naruto. Or else I will tear you limb from limb. Tenkuro dropped the boy, who scurried back to his friends. Naruto's gaze drifted to a tree behind the two sand ninja. Hey you, Redeed, keep your team in line. Konoha has very little tolerance for crap like this. The two sand ninja turned quickly, eyes wide. Obviously, neither had felt their teammates' chakra presence. Naruto glanced over his shoulder at his comrades, glad that they were consoling the three children as he handled the situation. Oh, don't worry. The boy had a deep voice that felt almost demonic. I will keep my siblings out of trouble. What is your name? Name's Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Naruto grinned at him. And I know who you are. Famed Gaara of the Sand. You don't have to worry though. I know all about your little friend. We have a lot in common. He saw a flash in the green eyes of the boy. Naruto Namikaze, huh? Mother will like your blood. Naruto motioned for his team and the children to follow him. You have a lot of issues to work though, but I really hope we get to fight in the exam. That was just creepy. Naruto shivered. That kid has something really wrong with him. I could just feel the power radiating off of him. He houses the Shukaku. Kumiko said, brushing her hair as they sat in the living room. She was always one of the more bloodthirsty beasts. Not as powerful as I am, but much more bloodthirsty. She always wanted to be bathed in blood. That kid will be very dangerous. His beast is still very powerful, and I still haven't regained all my strength. What do you mean you aren't as strong as you were? Well, from what I gathered, your father sealed half of my chakra inside you and half inside himself. So, when he sealed your mother's chakra inside the seal, it allowed the other half of my chakra to be sealed with hers. I had no control over that half. When your seal was tampered with by those men, it released the other half of my chakra into a physical body that you can see now. The other half of my chakra is still inside you, ready to use at your disposal. I am technically under your seal still. I bet if you really worked at it, there is a way for you to fully control me, even now that I am unsealed. He mumbled. I don't want to control you, but can I still use the power? I don't have access to it, so feel free. Aku made a disbelieving noise. You still have to control it though. Don't get beepy. Oh, I probably will get beepy. He said. But I can promise that I won't go off the deep end like that Gaara kid. The first punch barely glanced Naruto's chin. He noticed too late that it was a feint, though, when the second punch doubled him over and expelled the last bit of choked air from his ramen-weighted belly. It was a heck of a shot. Outside of having the wind knocked from him, which he always hated, Naruto noticed a fair amount of pain with the chakra-enhanced punch from his teammate. A hit to the face, yes, or even the kidney would have been alright, but a gut shot was no good. Fortunately, he was used to it all. A ninja was the blonde. He had been training with these particular teammates for a few weeks already. He stood straight, eyes bulging with rage, and stared at his opponent, a red-haired girl wearing a perfect smile right in her little eyes. She stood tall and proud, she was too confident. Naruto had him where he wanted him. You little Naruto took a lurching step forward with each word. On the third, he swung. Bitch. The slightly taller girl took another swing, rage taking her. Naruto shoved the girl off. He threw a side kick at her. 3 more. They hit their target. She fell cursing as she went. She got back up with blinding speed. Her breath left not wavered. Naruto gasped as he felt the girl take her chakra and not heal his rib. The pain was unreal. Click. Naruto listened to the sound of his teeth clack together. His world went dark. His last thought Kumi. Naruto woke up under some tree with an ache both in his head and his ego. He blew a small butterfly off his nose. His head was already starting to leave as he felt the Biju chakra course through his veins. He took a deep intake of breath as Naruto became aware of the world around him. A smell of clean and purity that was known as grass inflated his nostrils. The sky, bright and blue. Not a cloud up there. Birds chirped their marvelous melodies, each clashing in brilliant minor keys. Naruto could feel the soft wet ground, along with tree trunk, pressing into his body. Naruto let loose a smile. Aku wiped the dried blood from his chin. Her signature bun up for training. Her face held a look that would have scared most people, but Naruto knew it was just her pout. You just had to go and get knocked out by Kumiko, didn't you? His voice was soft but held a tone he couldn't identify. He knew she wanted to train too but. Naruto crinkled his face. He looked up at the sun and judged the time to be about the time his team switched to working on combo moves. He smiled at the girls that had quietly taken on a conversation. Blue eyes looked into red ones. Kumiko, since Rinnegan allows the user to have all of the chakra type releases, what if I combine some of them? He received a confused facial expression. Hear me out, Haku mixes water and wind. So maybe if I do the same thing but with Rinnegan's ability I could create something new. Haku butted in, that could work. It would definitely give us a hand in the exams. They all three agreed on one thing. They needed help. The Chunin exams were a mere week away and not enough time to develop a new jutsu. For now, they had to wait. The next week passed by like the bat of an eye. Each member of the team emerged stronger. Teamwork improved as did personal skill. Soft pads of shoes made noise as the three went to the first exam. Haku reached for Kumi's hand. Her grip was strong as she held the girl who acted like a younger sister to her. A sigh escaped the group as they pushed the first door open. The commotion came from the second floor. Investigations occurred. As they reached the floor, a boy with jet black hair resembling a bull stopped a kick from the ever-arrogant Sasuke Uchiha. His movement was almost faster than the eye could see. Sasuke scoffed and left the loser. The boy with the strangely big eyebrows followed after him. "Boy, Uchiha, why don't you fight with me here and now?" It was more of a challenge than a question. His face was almost stoic though, his dark eyes burned. The next few words escaped the group. A fight between the two started quickly. Soon, the three grew bored at watching Sasuke get beat that they ended up just leaving. Kumiko entered the room to the Chunin exams first. Her chakra coils still burned from having so much chakra. She felt her teammate's knees light buckle at the killing intent that was focused at the door. She just smiled. "Hey Naruto." A kid she didn't recognize ran up to the group. His hair was a wild mane of brown and a white dog sat atop it. A bug user followed with Hinata. "Oh, hi Kiba." The two quickly conversed in whatever they liked to talk about. The blonde girl dragged a boy that was eating and a bored boy towards their group. "Naruto Baka, where's Sasuke-kun and forehead?" "Team 7 doesn't exist." His voice held little emotion. Naruto's chakra slightly flared as he tried to calm his nerves and not show his ability. Naruto tensed as a presence approached them. His chakra finally calmed as he controlled the emotions coursing through his gut. "This means all the Genin rookies are taking the exam, eh?" His voice sent shivers down spines. Ino answered, "Who are you?" Acting all haughty. "I'm Kabuto Yakushi, anyways look around you." Kumiko did just that. Most people in the room had eyes turned the way the rookies were. Her companions looked around wide-eyed, shaking from the intensity of the looks. He continued, "Since you're all rookies, let me give you some advice." He pulled out a few cards. "These are cards I have collected. They are ninja info cards. To put it simple, I have information burned into them. I spent 4 years gathering this information. Now, is there anyone you want information? A village, hair color, anything. The information, though, might not be complete." Tsubaku no Gaara of the Sand and Rock Lee of the Leaf. Naruto had fished his memory of names. Kabuto pushed up his glasses. "Oh, you even know the names, that makes it quick. Here they are. First is Rock Lee." He trailed off. "He is 1 year senior to you guys. Mission info, 20 D rank, 11 C rank. His squad leader is Might Guy, teammates Tenten and Niji Hyuga." Naruto's eyes drifted to Hinata. "This year his Taijutsu has improved a lot, but it seems like he can't use chakra." Next is Gaara of the Desert. His missions are 8 C rank and even a B rank. His card is lacking a lot of information, but it seems like, oh wow, he has never come back from a mission even with 1 scratch. Kabuto put up his cards and almost immediately fell over, spewing his guts. "Sound shinobi, no fighting outside of the exams. Don't make me disqualify you." A booming voice came over. The voice continued, "Now everyone take a number and go sit down now." Soon the group of all shinobi had been seated. Many Chunin or maybe even Jounin sat about the edges of the room. "Hinata," Naruto gasped slightly, seeing who he had sat by. The man up front yelled again, "Listen here, this group seems to be unlucky this year." A booming laugh. "You got me as your test instructor. Ibiki Marino is the name. Now, let me explain the rules." "Hello Hinata." Naruto looked at the girl next to him. He smiled widely, happy that he was by a friend. Though, he was completely calm to the average person, inside he was freaking out. What if he didn't pass part 1 of the exam? He couldn't let down Haku and Kaneko. They were his friends and maybe even more if he so desired. They were obviously head over heels for him, anyone with eyes could see that. He responded in kind, "How are you today, Naruto?" She flushed as was the usual expression of her character. She had a history with Naruto after the last few months. Well, actually Hinata had a history with him before then when he saved her from a group of other students who found it funny to destroy the morale of the silent girl. "I'm alright, a bit nervous is all." Naruto scratched the back on his head. "The exams will be fun, I know, but I can't help but wonder why they're so hard to pass. I don't intend to be a genin the rest of my career, but well, you know." She nodded and kept her gaze in the table in front of them. This was the closest she had been to him for more than a few moments, and he was speaking with her like an old friend. It was a joyous day in the young Hyuga's life. The protector called attention, yet again explaining the point system. He acted as though cheating were a game. If you get caught you lose, but if you don't, well then that was swell and you would move on. Ibiki didn't right out say that, but anyone with common sense should be able to understand the underlying meaning. Naruto tensed as the paper was set before him. The yell to begin sounded and his eyes trailed the first question. Question 1. If a ninja entered the battlefield to find themselves surrounded by an enemy and the team captured, what do you do? Then, relate the circumstances in which the enemy offered to allow your team freedom in return for information. He blanched. His stomach hurt. What did this even mean? Shouldn't you always save your teammates? No, it depends on the nation. Those who abandon a mission are trash, but those who abandon friends are worse than trash. It was a moral question, but he felt that it should be less difficult. The rest of the questions asked about angles and other mission issues. He didn't understand any of them and really didn't care to. As long as he answered the last question he would be fine. He ran a hand through his hair. This exam was much harder than it should be. Naruto mumbled a curse as his eyes trailed over the groups of genin. Team Guy was using mirrors to help each other, Team 8 was each using their KK Genkas, and Team 10 was using Ino and Shikamaru's family Justu to their advantage. The hours seemed to tick by at the slowest rate it possible could. A sand genin left for the bathroom and Naruto let his eyes trail after him. There was something going on there. He didn't care to find out. Naruto let his test remain empty. Naruto, Hinata's soft voice brought him out of his thoughts. He hadn't really been paying attention. Do you want to, my test? Her words were obviously shy and timid. He thought over it, thanking her a bit louder than necessary. He turned her down because Naruto really did not want to be the reason she was eliminated from the exam. Kiba and Shino would kill him. She looked away blushing and Naruto kept his eyes on her. Had she always been so timid? Why was she suddenly so cute? Kumiko sat a few rows back from the duo. She scoffed when she was handed the exam. Who did they think she was? A genin. Of course they did. No one knew about her extraction or how she held thousands of years worth of knowledge, of course. She just hoped that Naruto wouldn't screw this up. She really did not believe that she could handle any more D-rank missions. They were trivial and boring. Any child could easily handle them. She rolled her eyes and began to slowly write a detailed response. Oh how she wanted to burn the stupid exam paper. It wasn't even the fact that there was a written exam, it was the fact that they obviously wanted everyone to cheat. The first question was ridiculous and only meant to make one reflect on their village's morals. Kumi thought it would be easier to see who should be here without making a test this obvious. Aku found herself in a similar situation as Naruto. She had been taught for years that shinobi were tools, nothing else. But recently, those values had been changing inside her. She clamped her hand around the pencil. Maybe this exams was more than what it seemed. The rest of the questions were simple, all dealing with where you should throw a shuriken, to when. All chunin level material. All too soon for most people, the test period was over and Ibiki was yelling at the group to drop their pencils. He calmly walked among the rows, just as strict and imposing as ever. He turned suddenly. First for this 10th question you must decide whether you will take it or not. If you choose not to, your point will be reduced to 0 and you'll fail along with your teammates. And the other rule is that if you choose to take it and answer incorrectly, that person will lose the right to ever take the Chunin selection exam again. Several negative sounds came from the group. There was tension there. Several long moments passed and several teams were disqualified. Naruto started to raise his hands, knowing both of his teammates were thinking of quitting. The pressure was too much. Don't underestimate me, I will not run. I'll take it even if I am a genin forever. I will myself become a Hokage anyway, so I don't care. I am not afraid. I will follow my unbending words, that's my ninja way. Ibiki's eyes widened at that, then he smirked. Well, this kid has blasted away everyone's worries. In times, information is more important than life and on missions and the battlefield, people risk their lives to get their hand on. If the enemy or third person notices you, there is no guarantee that the information will be accurate. Important information in your hands can be a powerful weapon for your comrades and for the village. Seeing no one wanting to quit he continued. Let me explain the 10th question. The take it or not take it decision. Obviously these were painful choices. Those who choose later fail along with their teammates. Those who choose to take it could lose the chance to ever take the test again. A true leap of faith. How about these two choices, say you guys become Chunins. Your mission is to steal a secret document. The amount of ninjas, their abilities etc. is unknown to you and of course there could be traps set all around you. Now. Do you accept or not? Because you don't want to die, because your comrades can be hurt. Can you avoid the dangerous mission? The answer is no. Congratulations on passing the first test. No matter what the danger, there are missions you can't avoid. The ability to be courageous and survive any hardship. This is an ability needed to become a Chunin captain. Those who can't put their destinies on the line, who cling to the uncertain future of theirs always next year and then walk away from their chance, those piece of trash who can only make such cowardly choices, don't have the right to become a Chunin. That's how I feel. At that moment, Anko burst through the window with a banner behind her. Come on you whelps. It's time for the second test. She paused. Huh. You left so many teams this year. Ibiki pushed aside the banner and grumbled. You're early again Anko. The genin this year are rather strong. They shared a chuckle before turning back to the classroom. Let's go. I have a job to do and you guys are making it really slow. She started out the classroom door and waited for the group. Anko Mitarashi led the groups of young ninja through the streets of Konoha with much ease. It was completely silent as a terrible foreboding atmosphere carried the genin of many different ages through the usually busy streets. The village, she noticed, had a severe lack of people. It happened every time the Hidden Leaf hosted the exams. Civilians were more than weary, and they had right to be. Her eyes fell on the young Hyuga, who walked closely behind Naruto, alongside her two teammates. It was strangely quiet. Eerie almost. If the village was eerie, the forest stunk of murder. Because of the woman staring at her, Hinata couldn't help but divert her attention to the ground. She quickly forgot about the menacing trees in front of her. As the group neared a condensed section of trees, Akamaru jumped up at the dark-haired girl, begging to be carried. She complied, much to Kiba's bane and annoyance. Good boy. She whispered, trying not to giggle as the pup gave her a kiss with his tongue. Hinata patted his head with another small laugh and told him to get down. He ran around her a few times, barking at her every so often and tugging at the fabric around her ankles. She turned to Kiba and started to say something, but she was cut off by Anko screaming them. Shut it. Anko was looking at Naruto, whom of which had a cut streaking across his cheek. A sound ninja took a step behind Naruto and handed Anko her kunai back. Hinata didn't trust him. Some gut feeling made her want to get as far away from the genin as possible. What? Naruto looked wide-eyed at Anko. He gripped his cheek, smearing the blood. What was that for? Tough guys like you usually leave their blood all over this forest. Don't get too peepee, boy. Even Jounin don't like this forest. That's idiotic. Why would you put a bunch of kids in that kind of place? He took a step towards the purple-haired woman. Naruto was daring, if anything. That was his most redeeming quality. He never gave up and he never backed down. You're sadistic. The only reply he received was her shrill laughter. She turned away from him and regarded the group with a grin. It wasn't the usual grin any of their teachers held. No, it was lustful for blood. This is what we like to call the forest of death. Kiba gasped. He was unable to speak without sounding slightly taken aback. This whole place gives me the creeps. It should. Anko's voice turned to a cold amusement. It should. It's called the forest of death for a reason and you're going to find out why. Hinata wasn't so sure she wanted to take the exams anymore. Not with the poisonous plants and deadly animals. Plus, you were supposed to kill other genin. No thanks. She slunk back, away from the crowd of older genin, with her waver in hand, and went over to the tree where she spotted Haku's blue shirt. She was comfortable around the taller Kanachi if anything else. Hinata took a long deep breath and as quietly as she could, she took a spot in the circle. Kuni, Haku and Naruto. Those three would make her feel better about her decision no doubt. It was all Hinata could do not to burst into tears. What if she had to fight them? Hi Hinata. Naruto said. His paper, which was pushed against the tree, had his sloppy signature on it. She didn't have much time to look at the signature as he folded the form and handed it to Haku. Hinata could guess why the brunette was holding on to the form. Naruto would most likely lose it. Good morning. She nodded. Her voice sounded much more confident than she really felt. It surprised her. Naruto beamed. He was excited. He bounced from one foot to the other and eyes kept trailing back to the booth where their papers would be turned in at. Are you ready? Before Hinata had time to even think of expressing her worries to the blonde and company a deeper voice came from behind her. Have you signed your waiver yet? She shook her head. I didn't bring a pencil. Sorry Kiba. Her eyes once again fell on her shoes as she apologized. She really didn't want to sign this paper but she couldn't destroy the chances of her teammates. Here I have one. Hinata took the pen and put her signature of the paper. It was the exact opposite of Naruto's. His was sloppy and all over the place, while hers was delicate and swirly. It was almost well enough to be a scriptwriter. When Hinata went to hand the pen back, an idea struck her. Why don't we team up? I mean we'll have a better chance at getting through the forest and getting scrolls. She ducked her head, cheeks tinting pink. If you don't want to it's fine. I just thought that maybe it would be helpful to have someone helping. The longer they spoke, the smaller her voice became. Kiba and Shino shared a look and both mulled over the option for a few moments before accepting. Haku, who was waiting patiently before, brought attention to herself by saying, "That's a brilliant idea, Hinata. Let's go get our scrolls. After we're in the forest, let's find each other. You can find us with your bloodlines." Shino spoke, "That is not a bad idea. It is rather intelligent to work together and overcome the idea that this presents to pit everyone against each other." Hinata could see Naruto shudder. He was staring at Shino and watching with utter horror as bug crawled freely along his skin and jacket. She zoned out of a moment, staring at the blonde, and then was whisked away by her companions. Thus the two groups went to get their scrolls and line up at the gates. Team 8 was sent to gate 34, while Naruto, Haku, and Kaneko went to gate 45. Half an hour later the horns began blowing, letting people enter the dangerous forest, one team at a time. Team 8 stood still for the third sets of blows, and then the gate opened. The Hinata could think of was, "Let the games begin." A shrill, blood-clenching scream echoed through the dense trees of the forest. The first of many that day. Each agonizing voice filled Hinata to the brim of her mind. She blinked back as her Byakugan faltered, changing the soft blue of the forest's natural chakra back into a dark horror. Hinata stumbled from the tree she had been running through and promptly plopped down on the dirt ground of the forest. The darkness felt overwhelming to her soft, lilac-colored eyes. Something felt off about the way the afternoon light looked as it pierced through the trees. A hand touched her shoulder. "Ah!" she gasped, hands clamping at her open mouth. She felt the hand stiffen as she turned. Kiba did not look happy. "The hell Nada," he grunted loudly at her. His eyes flickered to the trees and his nose twitched. She was barely able to give him a stuttering, "Sorry." A sigh came from in front of them as Shino creeped silently towards them. "Could you two quiet down? I would rather not have to fight extra genin if I can avoid it. Our priority is finding Naruto's team. Not screaming like children and acting the buffoon." "Yeah, Shino. Of course." Kiba nervously patted Akamaru, who was nestled deep against his chest. Hinata could see the slight hesitation in his gaze. Almost as if he were not sure of himself. She cleared her throat to gain their attention. Perhaps we should go find Naruto and the others. We only have another hour of daylight." Hinata closed her eyes and bowed her head in triumph as the two boys gave their agreement. She nodded and began to search the area for Naruto's chakra signature. It would have been easier if she wasn't afraid, shaking slightly from the odd feeling. "He isn't around here," she whispered. Her heart sank slightly. "I'm sorry." Shino knelt beside her, trying to give her a comforting smile. "It's okay, Hinata. My bugs cannot sense their chakra either. They're acting funny, anyways. We should move to safer ground and wait until morning. It won't be safe if we keep running around in the dark." Hinata saw his shoot Kibo look, almost asking for his disagreement. There was none. She stood up and took a deep breath, reactivating her bloodline to find somewhere relatively safe. "There's a small divot in the rock facing 20 meters north of here. There are no ninja in the area, nor are there any trails that signal a group has passed through the area. Lead the way, Hinata." Team 8 made their way along a rocky cliffside and found a small opening that led deeper into the rock. The entrance was hidden by small shrubbery that would most likely hide them from any other team. Hinata felt a wave of relaxation as they settled in. The strange feeling had diminished, but it still felt wrong to her. Something was going to happen, but she wasn't sure what. Hinata shook the thought out of her head and stared to make their campsite. Before the test even began they had decided to make no fire, so it was relatively easy to set up 3 sleeping bags and set a few traps around the entrance of the cave. Hinata was sitting near the entrance as Kiba and Shino set a small perimeter. Her bloodline was active and she noticed herself getting a headache from the strain of using it all day. It would have to be dealt with later because she was currently watching for any movements or foreign chakra signatures. "We're finished." Shino prodded Hinata out of her concentration, bloodline slipping as her attention fell elsewhere. "I assume there are still no other teams in the vicinity?" "Yes, Shino." Hinata nodded, crawling back into the small cave. "Though, there is a team on the edges of my vision, it looks they have also set camp for the evening. I cannot tell you how many, or if I know the signature. They are too far away." The darker boy nodded and propped his sleeping bag up against a wall near the entrance. "I will have first watch, then. Since you have used the most chakra today. Kiba, are you fine taking watch in a few hours?" "Sure. Akamaru and I will make sure no one gets through," Kiba stated, smile wide and gleaming in the low light. He pulled the pup clothes in the sleeping bag and Hinata thought he was snoring before his head even hit the ground. She watched Shino for a few seconds, wondering what he thought of everything. "Good night, Shino." "Night, Hinata." She swallowed and closed her eyes, pulling the sleeping bag up past her shoulders and curling slightly against the wall. The night had already began to turn colder and Hinata was glad she wasn't on watch until early morning. She didn't dream. Hinata, wake up. Kiba's clear voice brought her out of the fuzzy confines of rest. We're leaving in 10 minutes. What about my watch? Hinata managed to say through a yawn. It was already bright out, leaving the dingy cave illuminated. Kiba smiled. I didn't wake you. Shino took a bit longer than usual, and I just let you rest. You're our biggest asset. Really, Kiba? Hinata started. I could have taken my post just fine. Hinata slid out of the bag and already began rolling it when Kiba replied. I knew how tired you were. Take it as a favor. He stood above his backpack, Akamaru at his feet. Kiba. Hinata furrowed her brow. Shino interrupted her. It's too early for you two to start bickering. Breakfast is ready, he gave them each a bar of dried food. And we need to leave. The quicker we get the next scroll the better. If we don't meet Naruto's team today we should go on our own. As much as Hinata wanted to protest, she couldn't see fault in his plans. They very well couldn't just run around with the hopes of running into Naruto. It wouldn't work. They would not get a scroll before the time limit. I agree. Teammate left the small campsite soon after, heading in the direction of the tower. It seemed to be the best line of action. Hinata tried to concentrate on the woodland around them, but her mind wouldn't let her go to anything besides Naruto's team. She hoped Haku and Kaneko were alright as well. But every time she thought of the other two girls her mind went to what her father had told her. She was engaged to Naruto. Actually, there was a vague day set for the wedding already. That just made her want to scream into her pillow. She had always dreamed that she would marry him, but it felt bittersweet because of the fact that Naruto had to marry other girls as well. It was something she could live with, she supposed. At least she would be his first, meaning she would have more rights and privileges. This was what she had been raised for after all. One day she might inherit the Hyuga clan and be expected to have heirs, and she was glad that the children would be part Uzumaki. They would have a lot of siblings too. She had always wanted a bigger family. And if something ever happened to her, her children would have other women to take the place. Maybe it wouldn't be such a bad thing. Suddenly she was tumbling down and her knees skidded on the ground, no doubt leaving jagged cuts through her skin. Hinata flushed and looked up at Shino and Kiba. Ah, sorry. I lost my train of thought for a moment. Are you okay to stand up? I should be. Hinata began to stand but was unable to keep the grimace off of her face as the pain spiked through her. Or perhaps not. Kiba helped her stand and she beckoned to a low-hanging branch. Help me there and I'll get the medicine from my pouch. Soon after, her knee was bandaged up and the group began their movement again. Hinata activated her Byakugan, searching the areas around them. She paused for a brief moment, almost causing Shino to run into her. South 30 meters. Team of 3, looks like Sound Ninja. She deactivated her bloodline and Kiba turned on the spot to move in that direction. The scroll is on the female. Maneuver 3. Shino stated just before he disappeared to the right side of the forest. Hinata watched as Kiba went left, leaving her to face the 3 as bait. It was the first time trying this on a real battle and Hinata prayed it worked. Excuse me. She stepped into the clearing and locked her gaze with 3 ninja, each taller than her. There was a girl and 2 males. The girl had short blue hair, wore her hit-eye at her waist. Hinata already knew that she would be the most dangerous. I lost my team. The Sound Ninja smiled at each other as if happy for the easy prey. Hinata felt a wave rip down her spine. Fear. Damn it. Where were her teammates? Come here girlie. She wasn't sure which male said it, but Hinata took a few steps towards the group. Oh, let her be Zane. The other one said. He seemed to be the nicer one. As soon as she was within arm's distance, a cry broke through the air and 2 spinning forms rammed into the 2 boys. She could see the bugs already landing on all 3 and then her bloodline activated, her gaze on the girl. 8 trigrams. 32 palms. The girl was down, unable to use chakra before she had a chance to begin to use a jutsu. Shino extracted the scroll, a wide grin showing over his collar. We have both scrolls now. She knew she should feel happy, but there was something that still did not feel right with the entire situation. The scroll was theirs, and Hinata wanted nothing more than to go find Naruto, Haku and Kumiko. She just hoped the 3 stayed safe. Tempt. 3 days later, teammate found themselves up in the cozy confines of the tower with injuries taken care of and an overall happy demeanor. There had only been 4 teams in the tower. Today would be the last day for anyone to come, though Naruto's team had still not shown up. Hinata found herself sitting and waiting worriedly at the hallways that led newly finished teams into the tower. They still had 4 hours, she told herself. Sadly, Hinata didn't even believe herself really. But that didn't stop her from waiting. Finally. Only an hour before the end, Naruto's spiky blonde hair came into view, alongside Kumiko and Haku. A loud sigh of relief left her, pale eyes wide with clashing emotions. Hinata visibly relaxed, but only momentarily. She paused again when she looked at the group. Kumi looked fine. A few scratches riddled her body, along with a searing on her robes, but otherwise she looked okay. Haku was being helped walk by Iruka-sense, her ankle seemed to be either rolled or broken, and her hair was a mess. It took all Hinata's will to look at Naruto. He looked the worst physically, but he walked with the most power. His smile was bright, too. He looked terrible otherwise. Scorch marks covered several inches of his skin, and his pants and jacket were shredded and covered with deep crimson. The blood had obviously dried and then been re-bloodied. She couldn't help but cringe. That didn't stop her from following the three into the infirmary. The first thing she recognized was the bitter shock of the rubbing alcohol. It reminded her of some forgotten memory. Hinata could never put a finger on what exactly, though. She followed silently behind Ikura and paused just outside the area he had left them in. A nurse passed her with a strange look, but Hinata didn't care. Her eyes were on the back of the blonde's head, worry passing her brow. "Hinata, are you going to stand there all day?" Kumiko ushered her in as the nurse looked over Haku's injuries. Hinata followed limply without responding. She barely seemed to register the other girl. The hand popped in front of her eyes. Earth to Hinata. "Sorry Kumiko." Hinata hastily bowed in apology. "I seem to be distracted today." Kumiko started laughed, more so bellowing than anything. "Of course you are. I forget how young you are, honestly. We are all fine. Ran into some trouble early on, but everything is fine now. I take it your team passed." Hinata nodded. "Yes, Kiba and Shino and I passed. We got the second scroll very early on, and when we weren't able to locate your team, we made the decision to move to the tower." "Smart girl." She grinned, almost wearily. "Why don't you go talk to Haku while the nurse looks over Naruto and me?" "Okay." Hinata slid over to where Haku sat and plopped down beside her. "I'm glad you're well, Haku." "Thanks. I'm glad too." Haku smiled. "I'm happy that you came to see our team." "Oh, it was really no problem. I was worried about you. You guys cut it really close, you know." "What did Naruto say in the Wave Village?" Haku mused to herself. "The hero always comes in the time of need." Or something like that. Hinata giggled. "Well, it's good that you are all in good health." Tempt. The rest of the Chunin exams will be postponed until further notice. Lord Hokage took a drag off his tobacco pipe, looking down at the students. "There has been intel on a security breach, and once it is rectified we will hold the third round. Konoha would like to apologize to each student who has made it this far in the exam. This will be your last chance to forfeit the exams. The last round is not a team effort. It is individual. If anyone would like to forfeit, come see the man beside me before you leave." "Oh no." Naruto huffed from beside Hinata. She glanced at him, noticing the bandages around his ribs and splint around his right hand. There was a tense to the air, which made her feel like there was more to the situation than the Hokage would tell them. Hinata wondered if something happened during the second exam. It was the only plausible reason that the Hokage would put off the last round. They had time to rest now, instead of just jumping right into the battling. That was all well and fine for Hinata. Dismissed. She was being dragged along before the word even made sense in her head. Hinata looked up at the person dragging her, smile playing on her lips as she realized it was Naruto, flanked by Kumi and Haku. "Naruto. Is something wrong?" He stopped, and her face flushed. No sorry. Where are we going?" Kumi jumped into the conversation. "To the house. There's something we need to tell you." Hinata nodded and allowed herself to be dragged back to the Namikaze estate. The building never ceased to amaze her. It was big, yet homey. They made their way into the sitting room, and Hinata took note that Kushina wasn't home. "Sit down, Hinata." Naruto instructed, pointing towards a seat across from him. "I haven't been completely honest to you." "Naruto, you don't have." "I really do." He grimaced. "You know about what happened with Kumi and my mom. That isn't the whole story. I know that we fed the council a story about my dad, but that was only part of it. Kami, you've heard of the Sage of Sixth Path?" "Of course." Good. Okay. So he passed down a Dojutsu to his son, the Rinnegan. The Uzumaki clan was the descendants of the sun. Eventually the Dojutsu was lost to most of our clan, and it became a rite of passage of sorts. Either you unlocked it or you didn't. Then, they locked it away within the clan scroll. Sorry if this is strange, I don't even really understand it. He ran a hand through his hair. Anyways, when all the seal stuff happened, I unlocked that scroll. It contained jutsu, and seals and a letter. The letter was written to me, as the last of my clan. It forced a seal upon me, and well, I unlocked the Rinnegan. I can activate it when I try, but it's really hard to do without the training. I've been working on it with mom. Apparently I'm the center of some prophecy now. I don't mind that much. Also, that's why the CRA is so important for me. Without the Uzumaki clan, the sage is lost to the world. But that isn't really what we're talking about, is it? Naruto. Hinata touched his hand, wanting to give him her heart if that would make his not look as stressed. Just listen. Please. We were maybe an hour into the second exam when we were attacked. I can't remember who it was but they knew about the Rinnegan. We haven't told anyone. The only people who should know are my mom and us three. That's what was so strange. Naruto stood up and looked at the ceiling. Someone knows. There was also an attack on Anko Midarashi. I overheard that from Ikura. That's not all. I heard Sasuke was attacked as well, that why Kakashi pulled him away so fast after the Hokage talked to us. Someone is trying to hurt the village and take our power, I think. I'm sorry for keeping this from you Hinata, but I don't want to leave you in the dark. Especially with the whole betrothed thing. Hinata sat back, pressing against the cushion on the couch as she thought. Wait a moment. You said Anko was also attacked. Yes, I don't see why that matters so much. Kumi butted in. It matters a lot. Hinata lit up. I think I know who attacked you. It has to be. When Anko was a child she was given the cursed seal by Orochimaru. Who's that? You don't know? Naruto, really you should have listened more in the academy. Orochimaru is one of the 3 legendary Sannin. The other 2 are Tsunade and Jiraiya, but they aren't important right now. He was an evil man, and Anko fell for it when she was young. I bet he's trying to kill Hokage-sama. That would make a lot of sense. Haku nodded. The Hokage was his instructor, I believe. He could be on a mission to test his powers. And he might have marked Sasuke. It adds up. He wants Sasuke to join him. What? Naruto looked dumbfounded. Sasuke is an idiot, but he wouldn't do that, would he? He is pretty stuck on revenge. Hinata whispered. I wouldn't put it past him. Kumi nodded at that. The little bastard always seemed like evil scum to me. He didn't even really try to protect Naruto during that mission. And he was very cold to Tanzuna. Haku stretched, hiding a yawn. I can see him wanting to get more power and falling for Orochimaru's idiotic plans. But why would he want Sasuke? Naruto huffed. The Sharingan. Hinata managed to say. He wants the Sharingan. Damn it. Naruto cursed. Crap. Hinata, I forgot to tell you another thing I learned about the whole prophecy thing. What's that? Naruto grinned grimly. Well, I have an affinity for all of the elements. That's a lot to take in. Hinata muttered, falling back into the cushion. She took several deep breaths before she spoke again. Why are you telling me now? Well, Naruto began. Mom thought it would be best to tell you before we're married and everything. I know it's a few years until then, but it's best to be honest about this. The council enacted the act because I'm the last of my clan, but if they knew of my heritage, Kami knows what they would do. That's crazy. Hinata locked her gaze with Kumiko. She nodded. I suppose it is. This world has many strange occurrences. You're telling me? Hinata stood up and paced around the room. Do you think the person who attacked you knew all of this? We don't know. They knew of my Rinnegan, but that's all we know. Naruto bowed his head. I see. Hinata licked her lips anxiously. Well, let's hope Hokage-sama figures out the issue quickly. Why don't we get out of this depressing atmosphere? Haku ran a hand through her hair, pushing back stray strands. Kumiko wrinkled her nose. What did you have in mind? Well, if anyone else has noticed, there is a pool in the backyard. We don't need to train today, so I think we should just have fun. Great idea. Naruto sprinted down the hall and upstairs, presumably to go get his swimsuit. I don't have a swimsuit here. Hinata said, voice as quiet as always. Haku made a dismissive motion. You can borrow one of ours. Actually I have one that I think will suit you better than it suits me. The 3 girls followed after Naruto, turning into the right hallway after they reached the 2nd floor. The room was a soft blue in color, with 2 twin beds on opposite walls. Hinata almost laughed at the difference in sides. One half of the room was completely tidy and neat, while the other half was a mess. Hinata shook her head and stepped out of the way for her friends to find swimsuits. Haku appeared back in front of her in a few moments. She held out a small amount of fabric. Here you go. Haku pressed the suit in her hands and went back to rummaging her drawers. The door shut behind Hinata and she took it as her cue to change. The heavy jacket she wore was discarded, along with her undershirt and pants, followed by her panties. Hinata slipped into the bottoms, biting her lip at the feel of them, before pulling on the top. It took her a moment to tie the top. Hinata turned and glanced at the full-body mirror, immediately trying to cover herself more. The suit fit tight around her hips, accentuating the subtle curve of her waist. The top was skimpy enough as it was a bikini. But her breasts were a sore point with Hinata. She had matured early after all. She was already much more endowed than the majority of her peers and several older ninja. Her face flushed more as she took in the entire suit, though. Her breasts seemed to pop in the suit, pulling them together and doing little to hide the swell. Really, Hinata thought that bikinis were designed to hide the least amount possible. It didn't help that the suit was slightly too small on top and hugged her hips. She pressed her face into her hands with embarrassment. See, the suit fits you much better than it did me. Haku's cool hand touched her shoulder, making Hinata jump. Kumi, look at her. Isn't this a nice fit? Iridide nodded, fixing her top. Yeah, it almost makes me jealous. You're so cute, Hinata. But isn't it just a bit too revealing? She faltered, staring at the other girls, whose swimsuits were similar to hers. Though, they didn't have her assets. Hinata wished she didn't bloom early. Her mother had been the same at her age, but that really didn't make her feel any better about it now. All she got was an eye roll. Yes, because anyone cares about a bikini. Hinata, it isn't even that revealing. None of us care. Naruto definitely won't. He's almost 13 after all, and you're really pretty. Even if he did see anything, it wouldn't matter. He is going to see you naked eventually. What? Hinata deadpanned. That's years away. Of course it is, but you're still betrothed, aren't you? Kumi was studying her nails. Let's head downstairs. And if it's too much, Hinata, I'm sure Naruto will let you borrow one of his shirts. I'm fine. Hinata squeaked, practically bolting out the door. They could hear her moving downstairs before they had left the room. Tempt. Hinata. Get in. Naruto yelled as he reached out of the pool, beckoning her over. It's not cold. She nodded, slipped into the water after him. Hinata let the water wash over her body, doing her best not to shiver from the soft chill of the water. Hinata took it. The water had always felt like home. From the farthest reaches of her memory, Hinata had always loved to play in the water. Her mother always brought her to the stream to play before Hanabi was born, and Hinata had kept that tradition close to her heart. No matter what, she could always find stress relief in swimming. A pair of arms encircled her waist. Hinata let out a laugh, arms flailing as Naruto picked her up. Got you. Naruto. Hinata squeaked, kicking her legs out, but unable to reach the bottom or the poolside. His chin rested on her shoulder. Yes, Hinata. Let me go. No way. He took a few steps back, the pool surface rising as they were pulled towards the deeper end. His arms were tied around her waist, not allowing her any room for escape. She began kicking more reverently. Naruto. I can't touch the bottom. Just trust me then. His breath on her shoulder sent shivers down her spine. Hinata knew he was taller than her, but that didn't make her comfortable being completely at his mercy in the deeper end. If she were alone she wouldn't worry at all, but she wasn't able to swim and control where she went. Suddenly, she spun her around, arms pulling her close to him. His eyes locked on her, and Naruto slipped her a grin. His hold around her hips tightened slightly, and she could see him contemplating. For the first time, Hinata could see Naruto maturing. His eyes still held the same energetic fire, but there had to be some difference in his expression that made him look matured. It showed her a momentary glance at the man he might become. Can I kiss you? She nodded, face becoming furiously red. Naruto leaned down, pressing his lips against hers. Hinata couldn't help but notice how soft yet firm his lips were. They were chapter rough. They were everything she had imagined and more. His arms shifted around her, the kiss becoming rougher. Hinata felt her stomach soar as he kissed her. He pulled away all too quickly for her liking. Her heart was pounding so loud Naruto had to be able to hear it. Did she really care though? No. Not at all. Naruto had initiated a kiss. It took all of her will to come out of that thought and kiss him back, this time letting the kiss linger. Her lips felt like they were burning against him, and her head was swimming. See, I told you they'd be kissing. Haku's bell-like voice chimed as she walked outside, Kumiko on her heels. Iridide looked unpleased. Damn. I owe you 500 ryo now. Ah. Hinata pulled back so quickly that Naruto stumbled, both of them falling into the water. Hinata's face burned like the blazing sun. Naruto just started laughing. Seriously? Why's you two have to ruin the moment? Oh, Kumi practically purred at him. Is my little Neri-chan getting embarrassed about kissing Hinata-chan? I told you he would like the swimsuit. Haku had made her way into the pool, brown eyes alight like whiskey. She wanted to die. Hinata felt like fainting, but she pushed the feeling back and tried to keep her head from spinning. Haku. Why do you two have to butt in? You knew he would kiss me. For some reason that revelation made her want to start crying, but if anything were to be learned from the Hyuga clan, it was how to not cry. Hinata wasn't necessarily skilled at that trait, but she was stubborn enough not to lose her cool. We really didn't. Haku insisted, immediately changing the tune of her words. I saw you and Naruto playing in the pool and thought you might. You two are perverts. Naruto yelled at the older girls. His eyes passed over Hinata, seeming to linger for a moment on her breasts. Kumi turned her nose up. Says you. You are totally staring at Hinata. We're betrothed if you forgot, he snapped at her. I don't see you minding that much anyways. You're an old lady. I'm very young in kitsune ways, child. Kumi snarled back, her ear twitching. And you know as well as I do that I'm trapped in this body. I can't even use my chakra to its full extent. And human chakra coils are so different than my original ones. Naruto stuck his tongue out at her and swam over to Hinata. I'm sorry about them, Hinata. You know how they are. If it helps, you do look pretty cute today. Hinata could tell from the faint blush on his cheeks that he meant it. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Naruto Uzumaki. Kushina's bright voice filled the house, and moments later Naruto made his way into the kitchen. Yeah, Mom? I need to speak with you, she said, pulling her hands out of a sink filled with soap and dishes. An old friend will be in town in a few days, and you're going to be training with him until the third stage of the Chunin exams. This is a favor for your father, so try your hardest, okay? Can the girls train too? He bounced on his toes with excitement. Kushina shook her head and went back to the dishes. No, he would only accept you. I'm sure that I can help the girls if they would like a few training sessions. Have Haku tell Hinata. I know she will be with her team, but I would like to offer to my future daughter. Naruto blushed. Mom. You know it's true. Plus you only have a few years until the event. I would like Hinata to be close to me by then. Poor girl. She shook her head. I was really looking forward to see Hitomi. I'm sure it's rough on Hinata and her sister. Mom, can we please talk about the person who is going to help me train? Yes that. His name is Jiraiya the Toad Sannin. Kushina nodded to herself, a grin placating itself on her face. He is a very powerful ninja, Naruto. You have to respect him. He will only be here for a few weeks, and he was gracious enough to train you. He does have a tendency to be rather perverse in nature. Don't let him guide you wrong, okay sweetie? Hiro Sennin. Naruto started to laugh. Mom. How could you let me be trained by some perverted uncle? Hush, now. He was your father's sensei. Kushina shook a soapy hand at him. Be respectful. Jiraiya will be here in a few hours, and I want you to be ready to go by then, do you hear me? Yes ma'am. Oh, and Naruto. I heard about your kiss with Hinata. She grinned. I'm glad you're getting along well. She's a nice girl. Ooh Tempt. You must be Hiro Sennin. Naruto tapped on the back of a white-haired man. The man jumped and glared at the kid. What's that to you kid? Think you're special? Brat. He folded up a telescope and stuck it in a satchel bag. Actually I do. Naruto took a step back and did a light bow. Let me introduce myself. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, possessor of the Rinnegan and the last of my clan. I also have an affinity for storm release. Of course Minato would have a dunderhead for a kid. Jiraiya shook his head and hooked an arm around his neck. You look just like him, brat. And your eyes are blue. Oh, that's simple to explain. It works like the Sharingan. I can turn it on and off. How strange. Kid, why don't you run along? I'll come find you later. Don't you dare start that. Naruto stomped a foot. Mom said to tell her if you didn't come. I'm sure you've seen her mad before. The man shrugged, but Naruto did notice the fear that passed over his face. Jiraiya sighed and beckoned Naruto to come along. Fine. Okay, we'll teach you some things. First off, I'm going to teach you how to summon. I have a contract with Toads, and I'll get Bunta to let you sign. I actually plan to sign one with Kumi's clan, Naruto shrugged. Boo. Naruto glanced around. Kumiko is the current Kyuubi host. Her clan is the Fox Summons, and I feel like it will better reflect our relationship to sign with her clan. You're courting a fox demon? You have ball, kid. I'll give you that. No, I'm not courting her. Well I mean I am, but Hinata Hyuga is my betrothed. The wedding in planned just after her 15th birthday. You really do have balls if you're perusing two girls. I like you kid. He clapped Naruto on the back, knocking him off balance. It isn't like that. Naruto waved his arms in front of him. Hinata will be my wife, yes, but she won't be the only one. The village enacted the Clan Restoration Act against me, and it forces me to have a minimum of 5 wives by the time I'm 18 and have at least 2 heirs by 20. I'm not a pervert unlike you. Kid. What I'd give to be in your position. Seems like you already have 2 brides lined up. 3, actually. Naruto scratched the back of his head. But you aren't here to talk about my courting of girls. You're here to train me. I can produce shadow clones, and I've got a lot of chakra. So, can you please get to the actual teaching? Sure. Jiraiya turned around and rummaged through his bag. He pulled out a balloon full of water. Come find me when you can pop a balloon by using your chakra. To do this you must learn to spin their chakra in multiple directions at once. If it helps, you can tell how close you are by the way the water swishes. This step is complete once the user is able to burst the balloon with their chakra. Why are you making me do stupid things? If only you knew. He shook his head. This is step 1 to learning a jutsu your father invented. My dad? What about him? Naruto staggered, looking up with wide eyes. You said my dad made this jutsu? Yeah, Minato taught it to me. Took me damn well near 3 years to master, but if you're anything like him, I'll bet you can get to the final stage by the time I leave. Of course I will. Naruto shouted. I'll have this step mastered soon. I swear I won't rest until I can pop this balloon. And Uzumakis don't make promise they can't keep. I'd like to see you try. Rasengan. A blue orb of highly concentrated chakra brushed past Jiraiya. The chakra singed the edge of his robe. He leapt away from the boy with a smile on his face. He was improving already. Really, Jiraiya didn't think that the kid had it in him. Perhaps he would become a Chunin. Pervy Sage. Pervy Sage. Naruto released the jutsu and looked up at Jiraiya. He was worn out, with several fresh unhealed bruises marking his skin. The look of determination in his blue eyes didn't match his outward look. How was that? Don't call me that. He looked around, relieved that there were no women around them. Geez kid. The Rasengan ended up fine. Naruto happily laughed at that and fell on his back. Great. Now you can teach me other stuff too. What do you mean other stuff? I need to do research while I'm here. Jiraiya frowned but did his best to give Naruto a sad look. It didn't work. Naruto jumped back up, looking tired and ragged from training. Mom said you were going to train me. I already taught you the fourth jutsu, what else do you want to know? Naruto groaned. I need to know everything if I want to be Hokage one day. That's just a pipe dream. He began to look around the area in hopes of spotting a few lovely ladies. No. No, it isn't. I will be Hokage one day, old man. I may not look like much, but I will protect my family and those precious to me. I will become Hokage. Okay, kid. Jiraiya drew a deep breath and took a moment to think. The brat had mastered the Rasengan in less than a week. It was amazing. His chakra control was very controlled for someone with chakra like his, too. Really, he could teach the kid simple jutsu, but they would be nothing but one-time shocks in the rest of the Chunin exams. From what Jiraiya could tell, the only thing the boy knew that would come as a surprise was the Rasengan. Jiraiya. What, brat? Naruto faltered. I talked with Kumi-chan and my mom and I want to sign the Toad Scroll. You what? He asked. I said I would like to sign the summoning scroll. Naruto licked his lips. I've been thinking about it and I think that frogs will be better than foxes. Since Kumiko can summon them, I don't need to. Alright, Naruto. I'm going to teach you how to summon. Like that big frog you were riding. Jiraiya wanted to punch the kid. It's a toad, you imbecile. Now be respectful or I won't give you the summoning scroll. Okay. Naruto crossed his arms. He looked expectantly at Jiraiya. Alright, Naruto. I'm going to teach you how to summon the mighty, respectable Toad Clan. He pulled out a scroll, spinning it several times. It unraveled in the air and then fell elegantly to the ground. On the scroll lay several columns, each having a name and handprint stamped in blood. The scroll itself was the color of cream. At the bottom and top of the columns, there were several different drawings of frogs at different stages of development. Now, bite your finger and sign your name in blood. Follow what others have done before you. Jiraiya couldn't get the proud tone out of his voice. Naruto did as he was told. He pressed all 5 fingers into the scroll and suddenly felt a tug at his chakra. The scroll took some of his chakra before glowing and then going still again. He looked over the rest of the scroll with intrigue. Minato. Pervy Sage, did my dad sign this scroll? Naruto pointed to the name next to his. Jiraiya nodded, a sad smile passing his lips. He was a fine young man. I had him sign the scroll when he was about your age. Took to it right from the start. Naruto went quiet. It would have made Jiraiya worried if Naruto were anyone else. Kid, come on. I want you to try and summon a toad. These are the hand signs. Jiraiya slowly went through the signs with him, twice for good measure. Naruto focused his chakra into the signs, bit his thumb and pressed his hand into the ground. Summoning jutsu. The toad around the side of a deck of cards appeared. It was a deep green with orange specks throughout its skin. Be serious about this? Jiraiya screamed. I could be researching for my next book. I am trying. Naruto roared back. Watch me try again. A small toad poofed out of existence just before Naruto's hand hit the dirt. Summoning jutsu. This time Naruto pushed his chakra in greater amounts into the ground. Blue chakra surged around him. And thus, a toad the size of a mountain appeared, looking unhappy. Jiraiya. The booming voice of the toad filled the surrounding forest. Why have you summoned me? I'm a kid. Jiraiya mumbled. He took a few steps and waved at the giant beast. Bunta, I didn't summon you. He hollered. The kid did. Ahahahaha. You joke, Jiraiya. I don't. Jiraiya bowed his head slightly. This is the kid, Bunta. He's special, I tell you. I see no battle here, Jiraiya. For what have I been summoned? Jiraiya groaned. The kid signed the scroll and attempted to summon. You are only here from the sheer amount of chakra used. He did not anticipate your summoning. The giant toad glared at the two. I must warn you, do not summon me again if I am not needed. Next time I will not be as pleasant. Within a moment the area filled with smoke as the creature disappeared to the mountain. The cover fled within a minute, but it left Naruto standing stiff as a board next to Jiraiya. His eyes were still wide with shock. Good job summoning Gamabunta, but kid, next time try not to summon him. Naruto shrugged. He didn't seem that mad. Tempt. Gumi ran towards Naruto with a big fox-like smile on her face. Her deep red eyes were bright in the evening light. Her hair was pulled back into a tight braid. She skidded to a stop in front of him. Naruto. Her face flushed with what Naruto guessed was excitement. The Hokage just announced that the preliminaries are back on. We will start fighting tomorrow afternoon. That's great. Naruto swayed wearily, forcing himself to push off his body's need for sleep. He was plain exhausted. Gumi shook her head. That's not all. It feels like there is a lot of commotion. I don't know why they restarted the exams, but it doesn't bode well. Something is off with the village. That isn't good. Naruto scratched the back of his head. It was hard listening to someone when he felt so tired. We can't do anything right now. We just have to try our best tomorrow and compete with a lot of effort. You're right, Naruto. Kumiko bowed her head, eyes falling behind her bangs. Can you promise me something? Anything? Naruto replied. When it comes to the battles and everything after, can you please not die? Naruto frowned at that. Of course I won't die. What brought this on? You still have the seal. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Naruto beat his head in confusion. What does that have to do with anything, Kumi? She chewed the ground before looking up at him. Well, I have been researching and testing, and my chakra is still sealed inside you. I can access some of it. I am getting more of it as time passes, but lately I have begun to worry about a few things that might happen. Like what? Well, she paused here, plucking a small flower away from a bush and crushing it between her thumb and index finger. I believe that if you die, I will too. The seal has not been completely torn away. By the way things are going, it seems that we are linked. If one of us were to die, the other would follow. Get that frown off of your face. Naruto patted her cheek, blue eyes full of determination. I promise you that I won't die, and I won't you die. I won't go back on my word, that's my nindo. My ninja way. He patted her on the top of the head, like Iruka tended to do to him months ago. Naruto then breezed past her. The path back to the house was paved with old, smooth stones. It branched off and went towards the right of the house, leading back into the compound. He hadn't explored the entirety of the compound, but he guessed that it didn't have much else besides old buildings. Naruto could imagine that 9 or 10 families of 6 could live comfortably within the old houses. The compound looked as if it had been abandoned for years. When his parents first moved into his father's ancestral home, it looked like the rest of the clan had either died off or moved away from Konoha. It was almost sad. The thought turned happy when he realized what exactly that meant for him. He could rebuild the clan. He already had 3 of his brides decided on, if they would accept him. They would all live in the main house, but eventually his children would move into the compound and begin their lives. Naruto hoped that he would have plenty of children. It would take some work to get the old compound back to pristine condition, but that wasn't important at the moment. He wouldn't even marry Hinata until they both turned 15, but after that they could begin restoring the compound. If his clan ever grew, there was plenty of room to add more houses within the land. The plot of land took up most of the backside of the mountain. If needed, they could probably accommodate more than the Hyuga clan could, given time. That would all be many years away, though. First he had to marry Hinata and start to regrow his clan. He reached the door of the main house and let himself in. Smells of food wafted through the doorway that made his stomach hurt with hunger. He hadn't even realized that he had been hungry. His nose led him to the kitchen, with Kumi on his heels. Mizo. That's what the smell was. He loved mizo. As Naruto walked in the kitchen, a sight stopped his dead in his tracks. A woman stood over the stove, her red hair tied roughly back, as if in a moment of irritation. Several strands fell around the hairband, but it only served to make her look more like a mother. She was his mother. Even now, several months since he had met her, Kushina still felt like some sort of illusion. It made his heart wrench every single time he saw her. She had been nothing like he thought she would have been. She wasn't delicate or shy. His mother was loud, outgoing and a true person. She yelled at him when he needed it too. Naruto felt glad that Kushina wasn't like the mother he had always pictured in his mind. She was better. So much better. Mom, is supper almost ready? Naruto hung back in the doorframe, heart swelling with pride that he had someone who wanted and enjoyed cooking for him. Kushina turned, a wooden spoon in hand. Get out of here, Naruto. I'll call you when the food is done. Don't even think about trying to sneak a snack. Okay, Mom. Naruto couldn't even argue right now. His hunger could wait for once. He had a family. They may not be the best family, but they were his. He wouldn't trade any of them for the world. It was at that moment that Naruto realized family doesn't have to be related by blood. It's the people who you want in your life and that want you in theirs. The family meant that they accepted you no matter who you are and love you no matter what you do. It meant that nothing could destroy it. Love was funny like that. The end. So how was this part? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this part with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.